This is your third?
Yeah, the first one was in 2004.
Yep.
And I did a lot overseas in between that, and then when we were shooting The Hobbit, they scored a bit of a coup where they released us for a day of filming, and we came here and met all the fans, which was great because it was all the dwarves plus Luke Evans. And it was a big deal really, because a lot of those guys haven't done too many of these. They don't, you know, it's not really their thing. They don't really, they like their anonymity a bit too much. But for us Kiwis, it's how we see Europe and the States by going to conventions.
So you've done like the Comic Cons and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, I went to Atlanta to Dragon Con last year, 100,000 people. It's the biggest one I've been to, and it was actually quite confronting.
I can imagine. That's sort of culture shock.
It is.
Because coming from a country like that here, everything seems much smaller, but then going the opposite direction, that's got to be quite...
It is. And also, cosplay and fandom is growing here, but for a long time, people didn't really know what we did here. They knew we were in the films, but they didn't know. There wasn't a huge fan base for it. The advent of so many A-listers working in television now, I think, has grown the entire industry of cosplay. It's not just people from films that people are dressing up as; it's their favourite TV stars as well. And there are so many great shows out there, especially fantasy shows and sci-fi shows. What I've noticed in this country, especially going to places like Christchurch, Dunedin, and Wellington, and Auckland, and Hamilton, the bigger centres. There's now a whole community of people who, for cosplaying, that's their weekend. You know.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see talking to people outside of this event.
Yeah.
You see, they spend the entire year prepping for this event. Yeah. This is like the big thing.
Yeah, and the costumes are extraordinary.
I mean, yeah. So, in regard to cosplay, because that is a huge part of our core audience, have you seen someone cosplay convincingly as you?
Yeah, Nori's a very hard one because of the hair.
Yeah.
It's very hard to... my wig was made out of yak hair, and they had to use yak hair for it to hold its body in shape. I mean, it was very hot to wear and quite itchy, but it was just one of the things to try and keep it shaped through the film. And yeah, a lot of people have come up to me in various countries saying, "Oh, I've made the costume, but I can't get the hair right. You know, what did you use to keep it right?" And I said, "You need to find some wire or something to kind of keep the shape." But yeah, we saw in Germany last year. There's a whole they cosplayed the whole group of us. You know, 13 friends as all the dwarves, and it was astoundingly good. In fact, the one cosplaying as Thorin has travelled the world playing that character and wins awards. So that's extraordinary. Has bought the real sword and everything. So.
It's pretty hard out, the stuff they do.
It is, yeah.
And the lengths that they go to get that precision.
Yeah.
And for characters you've done, that's a lot of prosthetics and a lot of extras.
Yeah,
so I mean, you're no stranger to that. You've been doing it for a long time now.
I tried to say no actually to the last job. I just done a job where I had 5 hours of makeup, but it's one of those things where if you're good at it, you're kind of a commodity that people want, because there is a certain amount of headspace that goes with being a prosthetic actor. Yeah. There's the claustrophobia, there's the fact that you're having quite toxic glue being stuck on your face, around your eyes, and you know, it is quite tiring, it's quite draining at the end of the day. If you spent 5 hours in makeup, you then have to do 12 hours of shooting on top of that. It can be a 17 to 19 hour day, so long days, but good overtime, good change, isn't it? But yeah, it's, the other thing is having to work through that rubber and make it work. You do have to have not a hyper flexible face, but you do have to work it a bit harder to get the range of emotions and expressions.
So when you're doing something like that, and it's a question you get often, I always like asking this one, does that help you to actually, like once it's on and you see yourself there, does it switch automatically, or is it still a process that you have to go through?
Yeah, in fact, those of us that do prosthetics talk about that moment where you actually, the light comes on and you go, this is my character and I can see what I can do with this. It's an amazing thing actually, you know, I kind of wait until the paint job's almost done and then I start actually seeing what I can actually do in terms of flexibility with the face. Having contact lenses in takes a little bit away because you can't get the kind of light changes in your eyes. So, but there is something really cool about when you get the eyes in and the teeth, if you hit the teeth, and then you actually see yourself in the mirror for the first time. And I always like to say, give me 10 minutes before we go to set, go back to a trailer or something and find a mirror away from other people and actually look at what I can actually do with it. Because you can get quite a lot of subtlety as well. You know, just you can actually get subtlety through prosthetics if you're experienced in it.
You just have to know your own face and how far you have to stretch it without being cartoonish.
Yeah, but you have to kind of work that, and you have to kind of work in terms of the gradient, which is 40% of movement, and this is, you know, this has that effect. And if I really want to look evil, what's the best way of doing it?
So have you ever done it where you got like a bit into shooting and realized you could do something else and wanting to go back and fix?
Totally.
Yeah.
And what I love about working with Peter is that, you know, you get 40 takes sometimes to actually do that. And he is the master of tweaking. You know, people have always asked, you know, what sets Peter Jackson apart from other directors, and that's because he's a tweaker. He knows how to, he knows, you do something, he goes, that thing, back on Lord of the Rings when I played Shannara, the little thing I did with my tongue, I did that, and he went, that's the key, he's like a lizard. And so that's how I created the performance from that. From the very first take, he saw something that he really liked. And so he pushes that aspect, and then he'll do a take where he'll completely flip that on its head and just go, just for fun, let's say you don't do the growl, let's say you laugh at that moment. You know, so he's constantly looking at how he can get a different rage and different beat and a different rhythm in the scene, because he doesn't know until he sits down and cuts it what he's going to use.
Have you ever hit the latex moment where it was just, I need this off right now?
Yeah, back doing Shaku, which was a 7.5 hour makeup, we've done 2 days in a row where I didn't actually make it on set. And you know, half an hour before the end of the day, I was just ready to tear it off. I just wanted to rip it off and just never come back. It was just that thing of going, is someone going to tell me whether I'm working today or not? And it was just that thing where they were so, it was just a week where they had 4 units working, and the communication hadn't got through that actually it wasn't going to be needed. So they made me up. And you know, Pete came and said, going, well, no, we're never going to get to that. It's like, But that's the thing, when you've got 4 units working, there is going to be a communication breakdown. But yeah, that's the only time.
It's always interesting because you know, they say when you're acting, it's so much of the time it's just sitting. And then so you're sitting for the makeup, and then you're sitting on set in makeup waiting.
Yeah.
I don't do 10 minutes, and then you're off again.
Yeah, I don't sit, I find I stand. 5 hours sitting in the chair already, the last thing I want to do is sit down. So they have chairs on set for me, but I've got a lot of friends who work in the crew, and I'm always, especially with the new technology, the new cameras and the techno cranes and things like that, a lot of these people I've seen, you know, starting off as camera assists and now DOPs or camera operators, and so there's always something to talk about. And, you know, I do have, there's a couple of projects I have that I'm executive producing that I want to produce or direct one day. You know, they're in the pipeline, getting the rights to a play that I did last year to turn to a film. So I want to find out the technical know-how so that when I get on set I can say, can we swing a 50 or a 28 or whatever, and know what that means, why I'm actually swinging a lens, or you know, why, if I'm going to do a stack up, why would I do that? So I talk to the crew about what they're doing and why. I find that that actually keeps me from getting bored. Because you can actually, you lose, the problem with sitting and relaxing in the prosthetics is you lose energy. And then you spend the first 3 or 4 takes trying to get up to speed again. So I find if you stand and keep loose, you can go straight on them. And it's that kind of shorthand you have when you look at a crew that have kind of worked on a lot of fantasy. You don't have to rewrite the book. You kind of, you know, in terms of making the armour and making the swords, you know, Weta worked on the armour, and then some of the people up there, the costume people, have worked on the Hobbit. So, and it's nice when you get back with a group of people who have been your family, and you can kind of, I can relax. You know, I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm going to have to prove myself to these people. So.
And you've been pretty much every one of those, actually.
Yeah, I've been very, very lucky that I decided to do film and not television. You know, it's and not because I didn't rate television. It's just that for me, theatre and film is a great alliance. I like the fact that doing theatre is purely theatrical and film is something completely different. So I really like the balance of being able to do a theatre show that I paid for by doing it. I know that sounds crazy, but theatre is the kind of poor relation in this country, and it's very hard to get funding. And so the 2 plays I did last year was one play with my son. I was able to fund that from the money I made from The Hobbit, and then negotiate to buy the rights and turn that into a film, which was a lot of fun. It's a play called The Unseasonable Fall of Snow, and I actually got the idea of making it into a film because Bernard Hill, who played Fed in Lord of the Rings, came and saw it and said, "Who's got the rights for this? You know, you're going to make it into a film because I'd like to direct it."
Nice.
Maybe I should do it.
You can't have it. It's mine.
Well, actually, I think he's done a lot of work now as an actor. I think it'd be interesting to see him direct. And if I get to talk to him again, I'd certainly ask him if he was being serious, because I think having his name on it, you know, he's got such a great reputation, would certainly open some doors.
And if you don't like him halfway through canon and pick it up, you always have a good backup.
Yeah, I think, you know, I've sat and talked to him about his ideas of films that he's worked on. I think he's got a great eye for what works and what doesn't. I think actors make great directors, actually. On the whole, I think, because you know how to talk to other actors. You've also probably been in stuff that you've known why it hasn't worked. You know, sometimes it doesn't work for whatever reason, and so you know that there are certain traps that you don't want to fall into.
That's fair. Now you've got 2 things in post-production now as well.
Yeah.
A horror.
The Dead Room, which I'm actually, when I leave here today, we're doing reshoots at it. We had a look at the final print, and we all agreed that there was a couple of moments that all three of us, it's a three-hander, myself and Jeffrey Thomas, who plays Thror, and a young woman called Laura Patterson, who won an award for a film called Shopping that she did here.
Yes.
And Jason Studd was the director, and we all sort of, there was a moment, being a horror film, there are things that you know should be at a certain level in terms of the scariness, and it's close. And I really like directors who are brave enough to go, we can redo it, we can make it better. Even this far down the track, he's going, we can actually make this better. So it opens on the 29th of October. It's being distributed by XYZ Films in the UK and by Rambling Productions, I think, in the States, and Centron Films here. So
nice big back for that.
Halloween.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, it is.
That will do very well in the States, especially.
Yeah.
So they're doing original content as well. It seems like the big thing for all the studios are starting to do.
Yeah.
TV studios are starting to realize that's where the money is, and that's where the entertainment kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think the advent of things like Netflix and other channels like that have meant that people who have a TV studio have had to up their game.
Yeah.
There's a lot of competition out there, and a lot of people would say competition is a bad thing, but I think in terms of the kind of genres that people are attempting now, there's no fear.
Yeah.
Studios are going, we can do this. You can do so much with effects now, and you can do so much with even in camera you can do effects. There's no fear of attempting something that back in the 70s or 80s, even 90s, you're going, we can't make that look good enough, so let's just not do it.
But now it's on MTV, I assume it's not a musical.
No, it's
so
not.
the irony of that,
no, it's,
it was breaking out into song.
Yeah, no, it's going to be, I mean, I only saw what they released at San Diego, but it looks pretty flash.
Cool. And what's the other? You had another one in production as well.
It's a pre-production actually for a World War I zombie film called The Dead Front, and a local filmmaker here is working on that. So we've shot a teaser trailer for it to try and generate some interest. But he's got Richard Taylor and Alex Funk from Weta on board, and he's pretty much got the cast sorted out. So it's just the hardest thing is actually finding a distribution. We can make a film here very cheaply, but it's actually selling it that's hard from New Zealand.
Well, that's an idea that's been around for a while, because it's been putting on a workshop for a long time, that they wanted to make that. They had the miniatures and everything, been seeing it for years. Yeah. So it's nice to actually see it coming to fruition. Yeah. That's very cool. Yeah. Interesting to see.
Yeah. It's been. I mean, I've been very lucky actually. It's been a great time to be in Wellington.
So are you here for a while then?
I live just up 50 minutes up the road, so.
No plans for passing on to the UK or America and becoming a Hollywood famous?
Actually, funny you should say that, because I'm with a management company called Bohemia, which has an agency in LA and in London, and now my agent here in New Zealand is the Australasian arm of that. So I've signed up with them, and I'm off to LA later in the year just to kind of meet with the agency and talk about what I might like to do. I've been cast in a western called Trails End, which is shooting in Utah, but they still haven't got their funding. They've got quite a lot of the funding, and Mark Hadlow and I have both been cast in that, which is great to work with Mark again. I think it's great. I think Game of Thrones has kind of led the way in terms of going, you can turn what people would have thought were unshootable books into very watchable television.
I think the period concept on TV has done really well. Even a lot of stuff we've had here.
Once Upon a Time, things like that.
It's been some really cool work that's come up. So I think it does seem that specific part of TV is surpassing film, because the production levels are just as high, but it's a lot cheaper to make. Yeah,
and look at all the actors that are wanting to do TV at the moment. I mean, I watched True Detective, the first series, and Matthew McConaughey's never been better.
Yep.
It was and Woody Harrelson's never been better. And it was like watching a series of films strung together. With the new Red cameras and with the new Sony cameras and the new technology, it's a lot cheaper as well. You're not shooting on 35mm stock, and you're not kind of working with those huge production costs that kind of entails. I think it's only the archive that actually processes film that's coming out.
Well, and you've got such a range now. So you can have anything from that really hardcore sort of Spartacus style stuff where it's just sex and violence and blood, and then you can come to almost family style entertainment, fantasy, and you can cover the whole gamut. It makes it a lot easier to pitch.
It does. It's something for everyone, I think, is what someone said to me. And I think that's very true. And what's great for New Zealand is the fact that we have a group of, we have the technical ability to do anything we like here. And so there's nothing stopping us. And because you can ship stuff straight by satellite to LA. I was doing ADR the other day, and they were piping it straight from LA through the cans. I could hear them as they were mixing it there, different time zone. but there's nothing to stop you from doing that. You know, when we were shooting Tintin here, Spielberg was directing us from Los Angeles, you know, via satellite. There was no lag or anything. He was right there talking in real time and directing us on the stage, which was cool.
Now, speaking of that, voice versus live acting, because you're still on camera, versus motion capture.
Yeah.
Where are you most comfortable, realistically?
Yeah, I had this conversation with Pete Jackson himself, actually, because I was worried that we as actors were kind of putting ourselves in a position where we're going to put ourselves out of jobs. And he said, well, really, it's most useful for stunts. I mean, if you set a stunty on fire, it's a very dangerous stunt. If you set a mocap character on fire, no one gets hurt. If you want to drop someone from a 40-foot building, as a motion capture actor, no one's going to get hurt. You're not putting the stunty in any danger. So I think actually you still need a level of acting. You know, Andy Serkis he's the man. You know, watching him on set, but he said it's just like it's theatre acting. It's very, very high level theatre acting, which then the technology imposes its own kind of range of emotions and things on top of that. But you still have to start with a very good performer. If you look at what he did in Planet of the Apes, for instance, I watched some of what he did on set, and you just go, man, that's, regardless of whether it's live action or not, he's at the very top of his game. And I think, you know, having someone like that at the forefront and pushing it into people's consciousness and getting the Academy to have a look at it in terms of real performance. The biggest problem is working out where the actor finishes and where the computer takes over. And that's where studios don't really understand yet, as to, you know, in terms of giving an actor an award, how much do you give credit to the computer guy who did all the stuff afterwards? So that's a tricky thing. But it's very exciting stuff. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, you know, playing Tintin. We were doing the reshoots here, so we were playing up to 7 different characters and mimicking performances that had been done before and trying to actually make it seamless so that they could actually have that performance come up and then the physical stuff we did. And of course the original actors came back and revoiced it all. Yeah.
So because you've had the prosthetic experience and that line, it had to have helped a bit because you're used to having to stretch those features so the system can actually recognize them. So it had to be a little bit of an advantage. You know? They
have, especially with the facial capture, they have a range of motions, and I think most people have, you know, they can bang 250 to 300. Andy Serkis does like 1,000 different facial expressions, but it's the increments, like his eyebrow was going up a bit more, up a bit more. You know, he's flexible on both sides of his face, whereas most of us can kind of move stuff on our left side, but not so much on our right side. Whereas he was talking to the guys out at Weta, and they're saying, yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of range of motion from a lot of different actors, but Andy is off the scale. It's what makes him so watchable, is the fact that he can be so subtle and yet it tells an entire story.
I think they're, he's on one scale, so Doug Jones from the physical prosthetic, and so on the other scale, and you put the two in one film together, you'd have a great fight going on there and be quite entertaining.
Doug Jones is, you know, for someone like me who's done prosthetics, you look at him and you go, it's great having someone to go, I like his career.
And he's such a nice guy.
He's a lovely guy.
So yeah,
I've been putting young filmmakers in touch with people like Richard Taylor and getting meetings with them. It's like an executive producer role, but only in terms of what I'm actually doing. So this young guy who's making this World War I zombie movie, he's a young guy who's a rotoscoper, and he had this great idea, and he knew that Peter Jackson was wanting to make one years ago, and I said, well, you know, it's a different story. I can put you in touch with people. I'll introduce you to Alex Funk from Miniatures and Richard Taylor. Richard loved the idea, but he was very honest. He said, you know, we have an open book with one that we're still doing, possibly for someone else. But yeah, we'll give you any help that we can in terms of what we can put in terms of even art, you know, in terms of some concept designs. I was approached by a company in America who wanted to do a film about Nikola Tesla, and I put them in touch with Richard Taylor, who did a lot of art design. So I think having come through the very low budget features back in the late 80s, early 90s here myself, I kind of feel I'm bound that if someone has a great idea, at least I'm going to read it. It doesn't matter what country they're from. If someone's got a great script, or they think they've got a great script, I'll at least take the time to read it and look at who I can actually put them in touch with if I can't do it. I know Elijah does that a lot in the States. He's got a whole bunch of people, and I've introduced filmmakers from this country to him because of Spectre Vision and some of the people that he's distributing stuff through, and he's been very honest with them and pointed them in the right direction as well. So I think there are a number of us now who are going, well, we kind of worked on these big scale films, but we know how hard it is to get a film off the ground, so of course we want to help.
So someone comes in and says, will you read this? And you read it, and
it's no good.
It's just a no. How do you approach that? Sorry, you're good.
I think you have to be honest, but I think you have to be honest in a positive way of going, look, there is a lot of merit in this story. You need to decide, you know, we have a saying in the industry, kill your babies, and it's that thing. You might have 17 good ideas in a film, but you can't have 17 good ideas because that's far too, unless you're Tarantino and you can tie it all together. Very few people can do that. I always say one good idea, one good through line is what makes your first feature important. If you have too many good ideas, then it just becomes, it's very hard to actually look at how you're going to even cast that or even actually write the storyboard to something that's got too many ideas. So my advice is always, this is great, but what was the kernel of the idea when you first had it? Because it seems that you've had all these ideas since then, but what was the initial idea that you had for this film? Because I think that that's what you need to go back to. Go back to the core of it and just write that.
So one last thing, what do you think, if anything, is holding New Zealand back from moving up with the rest of the...
I think it's just our location. It's a very expensive country to come to shoot. You know, it's not expensive once you get here because we have the technology and we have the post-production facilities and we have the crew and the cast are used to working for not quite as much money, but it's really comes to do with how high the New Zealand dollar is. You know, down at the moment it's perfect, 67 cents in the American dollar, it's great, but if it gets up to 87, you're not saving any money coming here. So unless you're coming here because you want to use the technology or you want to use the locations or you have specific actors in mind, you probably wouldn't come here. But the biggest thing that still is, the biggest thing is what I said before, is getting it distributed. We're so far away from the market. If you get invited to a festival, then they pay for you to go. Otherwise, you go to the American film market in November and you're competing with a whole lot of people who have already had a studio behind them or have friends there. And you know, as a Kiwi going there, it can be quite confronting. You don't know anyone. You don't know who to sit and talk to. They don't know who you are. But the good thing about success of things like The Hobbit and the Deadlands, Toa Fraser's film last year, Cliff Curtis is a great ambassador for this country. He's put a lot of people in touch with people. It is actually starting to change where this is now a destination for people to come to shoot stuff. Not just for our landscape, but also for our people. So I think that's the one thing that I've seen change actually. I've had people from overseas calling me and going, hey, are you keen to come do a film here? I'm like, sure. That wouldn't have happened pre-Hobbit. Yeah, the deregulation was a good and bad thing in terms of, you know, in terms of the hours that you can be allowed to work here, it's great. You know, I'm happy to be paid overtime because I don't mind. I grew up on a farm, it's all just work. And I think that unionism, for its own sake, can be a real sticking point in terms of, you know, we'll turn the lights off and you're in the middle of a great emotional scene, you're never going to get back there. Yeah. So I think from that point of view, it's great. And as you say, we don't have a kind of a regulated thing where one person has one job. But it's also because a lot of those people are going, I was a camera operator, now I want to be a DOP, so I'll go and do a short film to prove that I can be a DOP. And that kind of grassroots thing is what has made this country, it's a frontier town still, as a country. We still, I can do that. I got a great story from Lord of the Rings actually. We had a gimbal on the underside of the helicopter that broke, and Barry Osborne rang the States and they said it would be 7 days, and the farmer said, "Giz, look at that." And he got a lathe out of the back of his Land Rover and made one in 40 minutes. They're still using it. That's that thing of going, we can do it. So it's why Weta is so successful, is that you never hear Richard Taylor going, no, we can't. He says it might be difficult, but we'll make it work. Yeah, and that's that great Kiwi ingenuity of people going, well, I left Ireland and the UK to get away from people telling me no. I'm going to go to a country where I'm just going to say yes. You know? And it's like me, if someone, like I say, I won't turn someone down from reading the script. If they've gone to the effort of printing the script out and they've actually come to the effort of coming up to my table and asking me. I came back from Atlanta last year with 6 scripts that people gave me. None of them are films I would want to do, but I gave those people advice as to why I personally would like to do them and people that I thought they should be approaching. And I think that there's nothing to, you know, I'm not Tom Cruise, for instance. No one's going to be throwing hundreds of scripts at me, but it's really nice to be at least offered them. And who knows? One of those scripts might be the pearl. That might be the character I've been waiting my entire career to play. And if you say no, just for saying no's sake, then you might be doing yourself out of a great part.